Good afternoon. I'm happy to be with you, Commercial Bank. Thank you for organizing this webinar, understanding its importance. So I have titled it Preventing Digital Burnout, Curriculum, Career, Character Choices. All four areas are affected if kids get onto the screen too much. Now we know because of online studies being imperative, kids are now on the screen more than usual. Then in between their study time, school studies or tuition, they keep multitasking, moving screen, chatting, and they may get to bad sides. But this talk is not about bad sides, but while on good studying, how can you prevent the digitizing effect of a child's brain, which will affect his curriculum, career choices, character, and other lifestyles. So at each point, I will tell you that there's another clip with greater detail. So if you want that clip, please send me a WhatsApp number to 076 313 4800. 076 313 4800. Then I can, or you can use the number on this slideshow. I can send you the relevant clip. 3 major features that you can detect in your child early enough to prevent the problem. So the idea is that I'm trying to get parents to be the therapists, because parents think everything is a medical problem, and if you go to a doctor, he will quickly give a drug and settle it. This problem does not settle with a drug. So you must please heed me. You are the best therapist for your child. So the main features you will initially see, and it will continue to get worse, are inattention. That is, the child can't sit in one place and study long enough to absorb what he's studying. Inattention has 2 features: short attention span and shallow attention span. So they can't keep their memory focused too long. At the same time, their attention depth begins to get shallow. They can't absorb a subject adequately that the subject requires. Then they get impulsivity, caused by increased dopamine action in the brain tracts. So they are jittery, jump from one thing to the other. Then they take risky decisions suddenly without thinking. We normally say, "Paninta pera sita balanu." They get into the mode of sitannata pera panala balanu, jump into it. And they get into a flight, fright, fight mode all the time, angry with someone and in a fighting mode. And crossing a road, they will not wait for the bus to pass by. They will want to jump and see whether they can beat the bus. That is how this happens. So then hyperactivity, can't sit in one place doing too many things at the same time. So I want to give you 5 key laws that parents must please implement. And I have to set at the outset, every week I do a more personal Zoom chat for parents who have a problem with the child. So if you are interested in such a Zoom chat, I don't charge for those things. You can send me a request saying, I want to sit with my child in a Zoom chat. Then I get a group of parents. And of course, your identity will not be disclosed. Even for that request, please send me a WhatsApp request to 076 313 4800. Now, here are 5 laws. Move to the next slide. 5 key laws to supervise and do at home. Reduce screen time after 6 p.m. Because if you keep a child on the digital screen after 6 p.m., melatonin secretion suffers, and melatonin starts with sunset. So it's always good to see, good for the child to see the sunset. This is not only for kids, even for parents. So if you are by the beach, that's lovely. Even if not, come out of the house, see the sunset, do something in the garden. Even if you are in an apartment, try to absorb sunset at least for 10-15 minutes, where that sets the brain for the night mode. And night mode is what makes brain brilliant. We absorb during the day and we do deep memory and all that in the night. under the supervision of melatonin, which is secreted by a gland called the pineal gland. So if the child is sleep disturbed because of the pixel screen, you don't get the night program on the brain. Now I understand after 6 p.m. also parents fix online tuition and so on. One thing you can do is shift from Android and shift from tabs or iPad or smartphones to a whole kind of laptop, which the screen pixel density is a low pixel density laptop is the best thing for study. Then take a break. Second law, take a break after 25 minutes of screen. Schools which have where I have lectured, they have adopted this, that they give the child a break between 2 study sessions. Try to do that yourself at home. Never work with LED lights on where the child is studying. So you have to provide some CFL warm glow. If you have already fixed LED lights in the roof, then switch it off and have a table lamp where the child is studying. Every bit of LED light contributes to the blue screen, blue frequency, which affects memory and sleep. So I strongly recommend don't keep 4K, 8K television at home. If you do, limit that and don't allow your child to multitask on the screens. Keep attention span for 45 minutes, which means sit down, study for 45 minutes. During this time, at least if grandparents are there to supervise, it's a good thing because they keep going from screen to screen, which worsens the problem. No screen at meal times. Meal time is the most brain brilliant and empathic time. During meal time, there's a lot of GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, that makes you empathic. Then there's a lot of oxytocin that helps you to communicate. And there is serotonin, which makes you happy. So use your meal time to maximum advantage, which means that you also can't bring your phone to the meal time. Appoint the time, 7 or 7:30 or whatever the time. I'm speaking about dinner, of course. Every meal, sit around the table, and home cooked meals is the best thing because you can't satisfy them with junk food, ordered food, outside food. Developing gratitude during meal time is a very important culture for this generation. So that you have to sacrifice the gym, you have to sacrifice Lions, Rotarians, whatever, and be there for the meal time with the child. And weekend meal times you must keep together. And any other meal time, if you can keep together, it's an excellent time. A meal time is the place to recover this generation who's so much into thrill and digital stuff. Then final law is no screen before 3 years. If you put the child on the screen before 3 years, child's speech will scramble. Before 3 years, child can pick up 2 languages, hearing it from parents or siblings. Digital screen cannot teach languages. So American Pediatric Association medical advice is no screen in the first 3 years of life. So when parents come to our empathic learning center, 1/3 come with speech difficulties manifesting at 6 years. Because before 6 years, child speaks like a parrot from memory. That doesn't mean phonemes, words, sentences have been absorbed. Then after 5 years, the child can't do the parrot thing and school will complain, this child cannot comprehend, can't make, all kinds of complaints will come. So please, before the age of 3, absolutely no screen. Now you will say, we have lost our nanny. That is true. Better to be safe than sorry. Next slide, the components, next slide. Components of the digital stimulation, how long exposed the child is to the LED screen. PPI of a smartphone, the pixels per inch. The more pixels per inch, the more the digitization. Rate of pixel change in this is a technical thing. Intensity and variability of sound and color. Don't agree to them listening to music while studying. Somehow you have don't fight with them. This generation will fight you if you try to fight them You have to coax them, coach them, walk with them, persuade them, no fighting with them. So if they say, Tati, I can sit in one place if I listen to music and put on the earphones, yes, they will sit in one place longer, but they won't study. They are listening to music. Music is appreciated and absorbed a lot by the temporal lobe that is here. But our study patterns and executive empathic thinking study patterns come from our prefrontal cortex. So when you are feeding the temporal lobe with music and then trying to study, it doesn't work. But when they are not studying, to play classical music, put a child on an instrument. Stringed instruments are the best for brain brilliance, but keyboards are okay. And him singing himself all contribute to child's brain brilliance because music is a language by itself. Then on the side, even older people, if you keep handwriting 4 A4 docs in 2 languages, then you don't get Alzheimer's. As a habit, do handwriting 4 A4 pages in 2 languages. Children also can pick up 2 languages before the age of 3, but parents have to talk. By parents talking, that they pick up, and from siblings, of course. So any time of exposure to the digital screen after 6 p.m. makes the digitization worse. Multitasking with different screens and different apps also makes digitization worse. Next slide is a neuron. And you can see at one end, okay, Golden Nuggets app by Dr. Lalith Mendis and my phone number. Next slide. Yes, Andrew. This is a neuron. And at one end, you can see there are little dots there. Those are the receptor in the brain tracts relevant to studying, executive, empathic, and study patterns. The relevant neurochemical transmitters are dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine works for salience for 45 minutes. Salience is to the focus, keeping focus for 45 minutes. And then you relax a little and you look back and check back how well you have studied. It automatically happens. And that 15 minutes is done by serotonin. So dopamine says, do, keep doing. Serotonin says, let's look back and see how we can improve. So with this generation, you must always stop. You must not say you didn't do it well. You must say, how can we improve this? They listen to that language. Next slide. So when parents come to me, I find mother is very worried about the problem. Father tries to take a nonchalant approach as if this is not his problem. Mom makes it daily safe and keeps the internal boundaries. She manages, makes it daily safe with provision and management. But when a problem arises, keeping boundaries, showing the limits, managing problems is father's territory. Father adds competence, confidence, and how to overcome the outside world. Mother adds bonding, how to overcome your inside world and have intimate relationships. So children who are mother absent suffer intimacy of inside relationships. Children who are father absent suffer lack of confidence. So they can't face the outside world. They avoid eye contact and so on. All this is accentuated when the child's only refuge is the screen, which is a very sad thing. So these things you must pick early. The slide before you is our default mode network of thought. By the time a child is 12 years old, this is fully effective. If not, a child up to the age of 5 can keep attention maximally for 20 minutes only. Early years at school, child can keep attention only for 30 minutes. So school periods must not be more than 30 minutes. If not, teacher must teach only for 30 minutes and do nice things in the rest of the time. Child's attention span gets, and the default mode network gets into adult levels around about age of 12. So they work for 45 minutes for salience. Dopamine is the active neurochemical transmitter in the learning tracks of the prefrontal cortex. Thinking tracks, decision-making tracks, learning tracks. And you look back after that time, after 45 minutes, you look back and check how it went. The self-check is not only a study habit, it becomes a character habit. Did I do it well? Did I go wrong? Was I wrong? That is automatically designed into our default mode network of thought. When a child is getting digitized and too much on the digital screen, he doesn't look back. Whatever he does is right. He loses sense of time. If mom says, darling, you have been on the screen for 3 hours, he'll yell and shout and say, no, what rubbish, I only started now. Because they lost the default mode network of thought. That is, when we have spent an hour, we know roughly it's an hour. That is the way it's so designed into our brain. And if the child is too much on the screen, the dopamine does not come down. And the dopamine receptors shift from physiological to addictive, DA1 to DA2. So some people call it electronic cocaine because that's the effect of cocaine. Then they want to do the same thing again and again and again. That's how the digital addiction sets in. Next slide. Now, these are the two tracks we should be familiar with. Number one is a normal learning management track. It's called top-down regulation, think and do, from the prefrontal cortex. It's executive, empathic, reflective, creative, initiation, navigation, end conclusion, good reward. Who gives the reward? Your inside itself says, well, that was good. You studied well. I understood that part. That's how, and of course, parents will also say, well done. That's the decision-making management learning process. But when the child gets on the digital screen, what happened in the last hour drives him into the next hour. Stimulation of the last hour is driving him. He's not thinking anew. That is called bottom-up regulation. So every sound excites him, troubles him. Anything that moves, he gets troubled with the birds squeaking, or he's alert to the outside more than to his inside thinking processes. That's called bottom-up regulation. That's the main deviation, medical issue of the digital screen. I presented my seminar to SLMA, Sri Lanka Medical Association, in 2019. So this is a big problem. When the child shifts to bottom-up regulation, he goes for the last thing, anything that comes from outside. He's all alert to the next thrill and next peril. Then the child that works through amygdala, hippocampus, and hypothalamus. This track is there in us when we face peril. If we start slipping on a banana skin, automatically the body adjusts itself. This is how soldiers in the foxhole syndrome behave. They go berserk. So the little fellow is in a foxhole situation. He's fighting a battle all the time with his nangi or with his father or with his teacher or with anybody. He's on a fight, flight, fright mode. It's called dyspathy. The right one is empathy. He's in dyspathy. He's impulsive. He's repetitive, reflexive, reactive. He's into stress, thrill, survival mode. Later, they begin to think pain is pleasure. They start cutting themselves for more thrill. So I have had many children coming cutting themselves. Now there's a new thing. They start speaking very bad language, vampire, bloody, I'll kill you, and completely filthy words. TikTok has some clips like that. And the little fellow, last one I had was only 7 years old, from a very good family. He speaks rank filth. It's called coprolalia. Lalia is tongue, copro is feces. So don't wait till, now don't get scared. Whole purpose of this seminar is that parents are well able to prevent this, and we will train you, tackle a child who has a problem, Now don't go home today and start lecturing your son or daughter, saying Dr. Lalith Mendis gave a lecture and you stop this, you stop that. That's not the way to go. You have to quietly introduce the things I have been telling you, such as the 5 laws, happy family time, happy meal times, and a happy family time at 7 p.m. every day. You can't wait to interact with the child till you go on that fantastic holiday. Every day, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. must be holiday mood. Father is fully dedicated to it. When you are coming home, please switch off the smartphone and don't walk into the house with your smartphone in your ear. It's completely rude. Your corporate work is over. When you are stepping out of your vehicle, getting into home, your dad home. So your most important role in life is dad and mom. Please keep that role. Don't forget it. And you can help your child, and we will help you to help your child. Next slide. Now I have spoken a lot. You should jot down the things on which you need to ask questions. You need more clarification. As I said, on every slide, I have a complete clip. If you want that clip, please send a WhatsApp to 076-313-4800. Now this slide are the brain tracks. These are a little more, you need to understand a little more. 7 brain tracks from the front to the rear. First one I have called empathic intuitive. That's how the child understands himself. That comes with bonding even while the child is in the mother's womb. So pregnant mothers, even when you're at work, every 3 hours, you must take a little time to speak to the baby in the womb. Medical science shows that baby in the womb understands the mother. And if a pregnant mother is sleeping, baby never kicks. He's so connected to the mother's rhythm. If a baby's kick gets you to get up from sleep, that means the baby is in physical distress. You must consult a VOG. He's so conscious of his mother's womb environment. So you also be very conscious when you are a pregnant mom. Second track is empathic relational, how they begin to develop relationships with others. Third track is linguistic language. I have already told you, don't give the screen before the age of 3. Any amount of handwriting, then more tactile they are. Inside the playpen, you have to put things they can touch and feel. Cubes, bonicas, dolls, shapes. And more he crawls on his toes and fingers, more the brain develops. So any amount of crawling is good. But for the first 7 months, we suggest you give a playpen. So he comes to the edge of the playpen, holds on to the poles, and he gets up. All that is very good. Theoretically, a rough surface wire lanupadura on which he crawls will make his brain more brilliant. Same with the padura, reed mat. I know those are not convenient, but that improves his brain connections. Then that is about crawling and so on, and language habits. Then show them letters, and by the time they come to that, rough timber surface cubes are better than plastic, but anyway, anything tactile is better. Later I will show you that even when the son or daughter are studying, on the side of the laptop on the table, keep shapes, so they see shapes. Get them to mold clay. When you do clay molding like this, the brain relaxes on the dopamine. There's another neurochemical transmitter called glutamate. More you do finger-toe involving movements, I will introduce to you things called grips and ropes. More you do that, more the glutamate of the brain inhibits the unnecessary dopamine that comes from the digital screen. Fourth track is logical management. So you have to give them puzzles, mechano set. That's what developed. So father has to do mechano is a brand name. There'll be other names. So you do clockwise and spanner goes anti-clockwise. So two hands doing clockwise, other one doing anti-clockwise. That's what makes brain brilliant. Screen actually makes the child stupid. Screen is smart, child becomes stupid. I want to introduce you some books. These are available in all 3 languages. This I have called Lamavia and Surakimu. These are little technical ones, Screen Smart. You get these books from Sarasavi bookshops, Vidyapa bookshop, and our Apeksha bookshop in Borella or Moratuva. This in Tamil. This has a foreword from Warden of St. Thomas's and former Dean of Medical Faculty. Right learning and curricular choices. Then I have given you this set of documents. You can read it with your child. All these books are meant to be read with your kid if the kid is 8 years or above. So it's an exercise of getting kids to understand the science and train them in it. And dad is the therapist. Of course, mother also can read. Then the next 3 tracks are the tracks that are accelerated by the digital screen: kinesthetic, acoustic, visual. So we have a kinesthetic, acoustic, visual who want to entertain and show off. So the first 4 tracks we do work. Next 3 tracks help us to show the work we do. So we all understand if you get people who show work more than do work, country comes into collapse. So we need even children to do work, and then the show part can come. Digital screen increases kinesthesia, acoustic, and the visuals. We all need them, but the screen preferentially stimulates those tracks and dumps down the first 4 tracks. Empathic, intuitive, empathic, relational, linguistic, and logical managerial tracks are put down by the screen. That is the problem of the screen. So you will realize it's a big problem. Now, Anuruddha, I'm wondering whether to give a little time for question here and there, or finish this and ask the questions. What do you think?
Yes, doctor, if they have a question in between, they will raise their hands. Otherwise, we'll continue with the lecture and ask them to, we will give some time for the questions.
Fine. Now, next slide, please. 7 brain, those are my books. You can get it from Sarasavi, Vidyapa, Apeksha bookshop in Borella, Moratuva. Okay, next. Appeal to parents. Dear parent, comparison or competition is unnecessary. Every child is a star, having his her own radiance in the firmament of their excellence. So don't compare children. Some children are more amygdala based. They are little melancholic. Under the minibirige hat angileng and men, there are children like that. They are sensitive. You can't criticize them publicly. And certainly meal time is not examination time. You can't ask at meal times, that will not do. Meal time is completely nice time, dedicated for children bonhomie, or they are the focus at meal time, and no criticizing bosses or government at meal time. It's a real happy children-parent interaction time. Parent will factor in and protect children from devious, unseen influences that come into their life from peers, cartoons, and digital games. One child came, parents I mean, contacted me, 12-year-old fellow, very sweet fellow, into digital games a lot. One night he came crashing into his parents' room because he said out of the screen came a monster. And he insisted that every window must be closed, every mirror must be closed, because monsters come out of the glass. So you have to convince your kid, whether he's 12 years old or 18 years old, no taking the laptop to the room in the night. Parent, do you think you have guts to do that? No fighting, train them into it. I understand that young fellows may, 18-year-old fellows may need the laptop for work or school work, but you have to negotiate that they don't go to sleep with the laptop. A boy came to me from a very good school, good parents. When I saw him, he's disheveled. I felt he has not washed. He's 18 years old. I felt he has not washed at least for 1 week. He was stinking because he's so digitized. Parents don't know the time he goes to sleep. Another set of parents, what they do is at about 1 o'clock, they switch off the main switch. And the fellow thinks there was a power cut. This is, of course, before the days of the power cuts. He was so addicted. And when the parents have switched off the main switch, he does not know. Only his house doesn't have power. He was so digitized. But I'll show you what we do. We have a place in Borella called the Den and Dare, where we use grips and ropes. So we encourage dad to come twice a week and do his exercises with the son or daughter in that place, so that you reverse the digital toxicity with small joint movements. That's the medical theory. What fingers and toes grip and do rhythmically reverses and builds back the empathic executive thinking tracks of the brain. Parents must give time and not gadgets, no harsh correction. Remember, we are into mistake management, not hitting children, not scolding children. If you have to scold a child, parent, you have failed. We must manage children without scolding, with improvement. And never stand, you're 6 feet tall and the young fellow is 4 feet tall. Don't stand and try to confront. Sit down together. Give him ease. Ask him what happened, what went wrong. Best time is soon after meals. As I told you, build the meal time. For the next 15 minutes, that's going to be hard. It's much easier after a good meal. Young or old men respond to good meals. Parents will clarify their ambitions for children. You can't run your races and put performance drives on kids. They'll wear out under it. I have heard when I go to drop my grandchildren, I have heard sometimes how parents speak to children, which is very unfortunate. So children must be children, isn't it? Next slide. Next slide. Parents will discern between what's best for their child and the striving for their own heart for child's advancement. So you have to check whether you're trying to be the champion you wanted to be through your child's performance, pushing them for sports or studies. Encouragement, certainly, yes. Getting them to be disciplined, yes. I always say start the day with dad drawing out the timetable for the next 12 hours. So 7 in the morning before you go, draw a timetable, handwrite it, get him to write down, and all your what means school time. After you come from school, what you do, play time, gardening time, pet time, cricket time, fish tank time, tuition time. Put it down like that so he sees a forward plan written by dad. And he will try to stick to it because you are doing it for him daily. Please find 3 minutes to do this with your son or daughter before they leave and you leave. And it is important for children to catch sunrise when they wake up. Catching sunrise, which means they must wake up before 6 o'clock any day. Waking up late jerks them into the adrenocortical system and they'll be in stress mode all the time. Waking early gets the insulin cortisol axis right. Melatonin settles down. Child gets ready for day. Then at 6 p.m., catching sunset, child gets ready for night. This is so for parents also. So I have a complete clip on managing sleep without drugs. Good for young fellows, good for adults. You can ask for that clip from my WhatsApp number 0763134800. Make sleep is the best business investment. Okay, parents will stretch children only to what children can bear. Parents count the cost on children, wear and tear, if they are pushed in studies, sports, elocution, music, all at the same time. These are all good things, but don't push them to achieve your goals. If they can achieve it naturally, fine. Doing sports is always good. Doing music is always good. Extracurricular activities is always good, but not to win the prize, not to be pushed to win the prize. One may be good at studies, another, you know, the theory. Another for another thing. Next slide. Parents will not run their races through children. Parents will not push children to be independent in order to have their time freed for other pursuits. So don't keep telling children, you must do your own thing. There's no management style like that. At each stage, teach the child. By the child is 6 years old, give them a table and a chair, keep it clean. Give them a clothes cupboard and a toy rack, keep it clean. So teach them management, get them involved in home chores, keeping the room clean, helping at cooking time, helping cleaning up the car from the age of 6, get them to do those things. Then get them involved in gardening and so on. So don't push them to be independent, which is not a good word to use. Parents will not be enamored with their child's starry glow. Getting them to, you know, achieve much quickly will damage their long-term mental health. So learn long-term parenting. I have a book on parenting called Parenting Heart and Brain in a Digital Age. Next slide. They have to read as much as possible black and white. Digital reading does not promote memory. So when they are studying online, you have to get them to keep their textbook, and they must write down. Notes. Insist on that, please. Looking at their textbook while online studying, writing down notes is mandatory. Next one. This is about work life. Even when adults are too much digitized, your attention span and depth will decrease, your planning will become poor, boredom, inability to focus or concentrate, chronic fatigue syndrome, learning becomes uninteresting, regularly is boring, shallow decisions, decreased creativity, you recruit anti-reward systems and addictions begin to come in at that stage. Every school has a child in a given grade promoting drugs because he's drug peddling for his father. This is the situation of all government schools. And near schools, there are drug peddlers of all kinds. All schools after grade 8 have in every grade a child peddling drugs because father is a drug peddler. Next slide. Digital effects on sleep. Can you, yes, this is a little technical slide. What I want to emphasize is during sleep, there is a real brain train program going on with the lymphatic system, glial cells of the brain, working on with melatonin, doing that supervisory work. So you get up in the morning, refreshed, ready for the next day. When that doesn't happen during sleep, and proper sleep is you have dream sleep alternating with no dream sleep, REM and NREM. Initially, you see bad dreams, like power cuts have gone to 21 hours. You see dreams like bad dreams like that. Then later on, you have good dreams, like gas cylinders coming home. So you must wake up on good sleep, good dreams. If you are waking up on bad dreams, that means your sleep rhythm is disturbed. Many digitized kids have this problem. So they wake up in the morning, they are grouchy, grumpy, shoes are not right, sock is wrong, teacher is bad, breakfast is bad. Sometimes the 40-year-old male child at home also behaves like this. 40-year-old male child at home also gets up in the morning grouchy and grumpy. That is because they are sleep disturbed. Next slide. So as I told you, having good sleep is good health. And I suggest that you get that clip that I recommended about how to improve sleep. Oh, can we scroll down a little more? And a child should go to sleep. 8-year-old child must sleep by 9:30 the latest. I repeat, 8-year-old child must sleep by 9:30 the latest. 12-year-old child must sleep by 10:30 the latest. Ready to get up at 5:30 or 6. This must be insisted upon, and even in holiday times, keep the sleep awake times regular. Very necessary. Next slide. If the child is too digitized, there are other effects. They are in fight, fright, flight mode, so their cortisol is high. They get childhood obesity. And by this time, they have learned junk food habits because they find if they eat a proper rice meal at the proper time, that digital intoxication comes down to. So what they do is they avoid normal meals and they keep taking junk food, tips, red colored drinks and stuff like that. So you have to train them good, healthy family meal habits young. And it's a kind of a rehabilitation program that you must do. So if you ask me, doctor, where do I begin? Restore the sleep. 2, restore meal time. 3, sunset, sunrise. 4, evening, some little game, board games, card game, carom, table tennis, badminton, games that can be played at home. I have another clip about how to do a gymnasium at home without much cost. How to build a sand track at home. Sand is a geometric particle. Running on sand trains the brain very well. So don't get scared about these medical effects of digital overuse. They are there. So prevent it. You might have to recognize that migraine is triggered by the pixel screen. You understand migraine in the head. There's a migraine in the abdomen. Children complain of intermittent abdominal pain because of too much screen use. So drugs should not be given to this. They have to be lifestyle therapy is what is necessary. Too much digital screen, children's immunity go low because of high cortisol. They catch infections easily. Next slide. Next slide. Minimizing digitization. Please minimize high pixel digital screen, high pixel digital activity after 6 p.m. This doesn't mean Excel docs, Word docs, and so on. This means gaming, films, that kind of thing. Work on the laptop with low PPI if possible, rather than on smartphone and tablet. Then adding to that, any amount of TV time increases the digitization. Reduce on the LED lights at home. I told you blue frequency increases melatonin depressing effects. In your washroom, do not have LED lights. Yes. Next one, minimizing digitization. while the child is studying, next slide, while the child is studying, put a lanupadura at his feet. And if he keeps scratching the lanupadura with the sole of his foot, then format, the digitizing effect goes down. Munching fruit, munching carrot is also good. Tweezers on the hand and clay molding, not that they are molding anything, but just this kind of activity will reduce the pixel absorption while the child is on online study. Yes. Next slide. They tend to say, I hate fruit, I hate vegetables, because they have an effect of reducing the digital effect. Next slide. Any amount of physical exercise is good. So gardening, fish tank, playing cricket. Then you can hang a cricket ball and take aim while there's a choir mat, lanupadura at the on the floor, and he moves on the lanupadura on the floor. As I told you, that kind of frictional touch adjusts the brain out of digitization effect. Next slide. Some more minor details. When on screen, what to do. If your child is toddler age, or what I mean is tricycle, bicycle age, if the digitization effect is coming, there's a little more. You can wrap the bicycle handle with coir, paste it, so that barefooted, bare hands, when they do the cycling, it has a good effect on the brain. Then every day, dad must plan a next step, next stretch, next step, next stretch. A little thrilling thing with your son or daughter. So they get used to the idea, thrills and new things are introduced by my dad, not by peers. So you save them from peer pressures later, because when they are passing 13 years, they will not listen to you, they will listen to peers. So before they pass 13 years, dad, please get in your voice, get in your camaraderie, get in your friendship with your children. That is very important. Get them to understand life is a good gift. And by the age of 14, all the brain tracks have been made and finished. Therefore, when you try to think of making your son brilliant after the age of 14, you are too late. After 14, you use the brain tracks that have been made with creative occupation. Then by the age of 18, they must be thinking of tertiary education or vocational qualification. By the age of 24, they must know the field in which they are going to be lifelong involved. They can change the workplace, but the work field, what they are going to be, from about the age of 24, it is important to be in that work field. Then by age 33, you have achieved 1/3 of your life. By age 43, you have achieved 2/3 of your life and success. Then the next 1/3 is you making others great. That's how the design of life is arranged. Yes, that's a little thing about career and character molding for future.